What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about some Malifaux lore. Specifically, we're going to take a deep dive into the backstory of Misaki Katanaka, the princess of the Ten Thunders herself. Now, fair warning, there will be spoilers ahead for all of the stories that she appears in, as well as some others. And there will be a list of the stories that the information was pulled from in the description, so you can check them out in more detail. But let's jump into it. Misaki was introduced to the game during First Edition. At the time, she was a minion in the Outcast faction, as the Ten Thunders did not become their own faction until later. The first thing we learn about Misaki is that she's a lieutenant in the Ten Thunders crime family, and she was sent to Malifaux to act as a vanguard for the organization. After establishing herself in the underground of Malifaux, Misaki finds herself climbing around on the rooftops in the Little Kingdom, having a bit of an internal debate. It seems the Thunders have recently sent more operatives through the breach, and their direct and aggressive approach is disrupting some of Misaki's carefully laid plans. Now she has to decide whether she should stick with the Ten Thunders and remain loyal to her father, the Oyabun, or if she should embrace her freedom and keep operating on her own. Later on, several of the newly arrived Ten Thunders operatives are celebrating a battle that took place between them and a rival gang. Many of them start to express their discontent with Misaki's leadership style, some going as far as being outright disrespectful. Misaki reveals that she's been present for the whole conversation, having disguised herself as a handmaiden. As she is their leader and speaks for the Oyabun, their disrespect is deeply shameful. Misaki chastises them for their failure to fully subdue the rival organization, and informs them that they'll be returning to finish the job. In an abandoned forge somewhere, Ramos seeks out Karis and asks her to do him a favor for an ally of his. Misaki's men launch an attack on the rival organization as Misaki stealthily makes her way in through the rooftops. She watches as the rivals seem to get the better of the Thunder's men, and just as their lieutenant is proclaiming victory, Misaki jumps down out of the rafters and lops his head off. She fights her way to their Oyabun, and after a brief struggle is able to kill him, but she doesn't have long to celebrate before Karis appears and attacks her. The two women have a long fight as the building is burning and falling down around them. Karis asks Misaki why a woman as powerful as her would owe her loyalty to a group of criminals and thieves. Misaki replies that the Ten Thunders give her discipline and control, which she demonstrates in her fighting technique. Karis, who's been getting more and more frustrated during the battle, snaps back, saying that there's no way to control the power in Malifaux, and that Misaki must embrace chaos. At the same time, she launches a series of random and unpredictable attacks at Misaki. Misaki notices that her disciplined and controlled fighting technique is not well suited to defend against such an attack. Misaki decides to take Karis' advice and starts to incorporate a little bit of unpredictability and randomness into her attacks. Just as she's getting the better of Karis, the guild show up and a peacekeeper breaks into the building. Karis flies away, and Misaki regroups with what's left of her men, and they escape out a back door. Once they reach safety, Misaki reflects on the battle and considers how useful it was to combine her traditional approach to combat with the more chaotic approach of Karis. She realizes that she can take a similar approach to her choices in life, and decides that she will continue to serve the Ten Thunders, but she will do things her own way. The Ten Thunders continue to increase their presence in Malifaux and infiltrate several of their rival organizations. Misaki, with the help of Yan Lo, Jacob Lynch, Lucas McCabe, and Mei Fang, hatches a plan to further this objective. They have gained access to a place called the Library of Everything. This library absorbs all the myths and legends of the beings in Malifaux, and then uses those stories to influence society and culture. The Thunders have hatched a plan to start removing some of the existing myths and legends and replacing them with ones from the Three Kingdoms, in order to more quickly integrate their culture into Malifaux society. At some point, Misaki's father, the Oyabun, or leader of the Ten Thunders, crosses through the breach to Malifaux. He sends Misaki on a mission to recover a magical item from the warehouse where Lucius keeps his personal collection of relics. Misaki loses one man in this struggle and successfully returns to her father with the item. The Oyabun expresses his deep disappointment that her mission resulted in the death of a Ten Thunder, and storms out. Misaki growls back at the now empty room, explaining that the mission was complicated due to her father giving them bad information. Several days later, Misaki once again finds herself on a rooftop, contemplating her choices in life, when the guild find her, apparently trying to recover the artifacts she stole. She's easily able to kill them, and presents their heads to her father as a gift. We then learn that Shang, Misaki's totem, is a magical kitsune that started off as Misaki's imaginary friend. However, once she crossed the breach, the magic of Malifaux brought him to life, to follow Misaki wherever she goes. In spite of Misaki's strained relationship with her father, she retains a great deal of respect and power among the Ten Thunders. Misaki calls a meeting with her top lieutenants in a remote warehouse and questions Mei Fang about the progress of a secret underground railroad that they're building. Mei Fang expresses her frustration at not having enough men and losing some of the ones she does have, and Misaki is very stern with her, saying that she doesn't have infinite resources to squander on Mei Fang's work. After reflecting for a minute, she decides to be a bit more compassionate. She explains that they're not yet ready to move against the guild or the union, but emphasizes how important Mei Fang's work is to their preparation. After that, they're joined by Jacob Lynch, who seems to be confused as to why he's there. Then Yan Lo appears, and Misaki watches as Yan Lo Malifaux questions the darkness inside of Jacob about how to fight the Tyrants. Misaki's interest in the Tyrants continues as she later sets up an operation doing research into the Tyrants' power. One of her Torakage even stops Hamlin from rebuilding the box he used to bring down the Red Cage. Misaki continues to control things from behind the scenes and expand her power in Malifaux. She sets up a meeting with a lieutenant named Honshu who's been causing her trouble. Ototo watches on from the side. He suspects that this man has been sent to Malifaux as a test of Misaki's leadership skills. Misaki scolds the lieutenant for being too bullish and crass in his methods and drawing too much attention to the organization. Honshu counters that he's been able to destroy several rival organizations in a very short period of time, expanding their territory considerably. She counters that many of these organizations could have been brought to heel and incorporated into the Ten Thunders, as opposed to being destroyed. Honshu makes a subtle threat, and Ototo approaches the table as if to punish him for it, but Misaki calls him off. Misaki tells him that he will follow her orders or be removed, and he makes a mocking bow and leaves. Ototo waits eagerly for the command that he knows is coming. Misaki orders him to bring her Honshu's loyalty or his head. Ototo tracks Honshu down and fights through several of his men. Honshu makes it clear that he does not intend to follow Misaki's orders, and they fight one-on-one. Ototo gets the best of him and strikes him down with his Tetsubo. Honshu's remaining men pledge their loyalty to Misaki and the Ten Thunders. In the time leading up to the Governor General's attempt to ascend to tyranthood, Misaki is actually tipped off about his plot. An employee in Lucius's office sends a forged letter to Jacob Lynch, claiming that Lucius wants to have a meeting with him. Jacob sees through the ruse, but agrees to have the meeting anyway. Jacob brings him to meet Misaki, and the secretary, who seems to know that the Ten Thunders have access to a secondary breach, requests the Ten Thunders' help in escaping Malifaux. Misaki is confused, as this is a man of high standing in the guild. She asks him what's going on in the guild enclave that's got him so spooked, and he explains the Governor General's plot. As a result, Misaki is able to order one of her agents to sabotage the Governor General's ritual, causing it to fail, resulting in his death. Misaki is meditating in her room when the Governor General's plan goes awry, and she feels the Avatar manifesting power drained from the planet. She hears a commotion in her house and goes to question some of her guards. As she does so, she sees the shadow effigy jump out a window and transform into a dragon. Soon after Governor General Kitchener is killed, he's replaced by Governor Marlowe. Marlowe decides to outlaw mercenary work, and in response, all of the mercenary groups in Malifaux have a meeting to decide how to move forward. A Woku Raider is present at the meeting, ostensibly as part of Parker's crew. However, in reality, he was sent by Misaki. He meets with Vanessa Chambers, who is there representing the Victorias, and expresses Misaki's wish that she and her sisters wait until the right moment to move against the guild. He also explains that Misaki has an affinity for her and her sisters, and will support them when the time is right. When Vanessa asks him why he didn't make this announcement in front of the group, he explains that Misaki does not feel the same for everyone present at the meeting. At around the same time, the Boxer Rebellion in the Three Kingdoms forced the guild occupation out. The people of the Little Kingdom were celebrating, and it led to violence with the guild. Misaki's father requests her presence, and she meets him at a new sake bar. He's drunk, and Misaki points out that this is no time for celebration, as the guild are now at a heightened level of alert. He explains that he is not celebrating the Boxer Rebellion, but their upcoming victory against the guild in Malifaux. Misaki counters that moving against the guild at this time would be foolish, and the Oyabun slaps her, embarrassing her in front of other people. She steels herself and leaves calmly. The next day, Misaki requests a meeting with the Oyabun's top generals. She assumes they will attend, either out of respect for her father, or because they will enjoy seeing her in shame. They are very dismissive of her, but she asks to be let in on their plans for their coming power play, feigning a desire to help in order to regain her father's favor, and leveraging her greater experience in Malifaux. She listens as each of them explains their plan to strike out against one of the other major factions in Malifaux, and gives fake praise for each of their plans, assuring them that she'll be available to help should they need her. Misaki sends her former mentor, Yamaziko, to intercept the Illuminated, which were sent into the forest to kill the fake creatures in order to frame the Nephilim, and cause further tension between the factions within the Neverborn. She sends Kang and several rail workers to fend off saboteurs and repair a section of railroad track, preventing the Oyabun's men from stealing a shipment of soulstones, potentially undermining the new Governor General's leadership. Next, she sends Sadir to a guild prison, where he fights off 4 assassins who were attempting to kill Ramos in order to turn the factions within the Arcanists against each other. And finally, she sends Minako Rei to find Toshiro Katanaka and convinces him that his mission to blow up several resurrectionist strongholds is misguided and dishonorable. After all of his plans fail, the Oyabun once again summons Misaki. Sober this time, he accuses her of foiling his plans, and when she denies it, he slaps her in the face and banishes her from their family. In response, she challenges him to a duel. 1 week later, they meet at Shenlong's temple. Several of Misaki's agents attend to show their support for her, potentially risking their lives, but the Oyabun has a great deal more support present, including including his generals. Misaki initially doubts herself, but when the duel starts, she takes her father's head off before he even has a chance to draw his sword. One of his generals approaches Misaki and kneels, pledging support for Misaki as the new Oyabun. She responds, "Mine will not be a regime of fools," and commands her people to kill the generals. Even after becoming the Oyabun, Misaki maintains a hands-on approach inside the Ten Thunders. While once again out on a mission to punish an insubordinate agent, Misaki is told that one of her highest lieutenants has betrayed her. She considers that her father's approach may have been best, using fear and intimidation to keep her people in line, but Minako Rei attempts to convince her that that's not the best way. She takes Misaki to the Ki and Gong, a well-known sake house in the Little Kingdom, where Misaki is introduced to Yuko Hamasaki. Yuko is not happy to see Misaki as her reputation precedes her. Misaki asks Yuko how she's been able to stay hidden from Misaki's agents. Yuko responds that people's assumptions make them easy to manipulate. She tells Misaki 3 riddles which demonstrate this to her. Misaki is very impressed, and then asks Yuko if she knows who the traitor is within her organization, knowing that she is privy to much of the goings-on within the Little Kingdom. Yuko tells Misaki that she cannot answer the question, but that Misaki may want to be near the Town of Promise in 3 days. Misaki notes that the Town of Promise is where the Ten Thunders' secondary breach is. When she arrives at the scene, she finds Mei Fang with several rail golems, as well as foundry workers. They appear to be preparing to go through the breach back to Earth. Misaki confronts Mei Fang, and her reinforcements, several Torakage and monks, reveal themselves. Mei Fang explains that they are going back to China to answer the call of the Empress in order to defend against the gibbering hordes. Misaki replies that her rightful place is in Malifaux with the Ten Thunders, reminding her that after the guild killed her parents, Misaki's father took Mei Fang and her brother in and cared for them. Mei Fang explains that the Katanaka family and the other Japanese have been taking advantage of the Chinese refugees of the war, using them as slave labor. Misaki is surprised to hear this, but refuses to stand down, and the 2 women fight. They each injure each other, but Misaki gets the upper hand and is about to strike Mei Fang down. At the last minute, she drops her weapon, explaining that had she known of the treatment of the Chinese immigrants, she would have stopped it. After helping Mei Fang up off the ground and addressing the foundry workers, Misaki whispers that Mei Fang will maintain her position within the Ten Thunders, and Misaki will allow her to send limited assets through the breach to help the 3 kingdoms. Mei Fang is humiliated and asks Misaki to simply kill her, but Misaki reminds her that she has many people that are relying on her. Later, Misaki returns to the Ki and Gong and meets with Yuko, who explains that she's told Misaki about the meeting with Mei Fang as a test to see whether Misaki would be a brutal leader like her father, adding that she was fairly sure that Misaki would spare Mei Fang's life. Misaki asks Yuko to join the Ten Thunders, and Yuko declines, but makes a comment about how everybody who's declined that offer in the past has ended up dead. Misaki replies that she has learned since then, and Yuko asks what Misaki would have her do if she worked for the Ten Thunders. Misaki replies, "Teach me." Yuko, seemingly accepting, tells the Oyabun that she should spend more time tending to her own people in order to maintain their loyalty. In particular, she tells her she may want to go visit Jacob at the Honeypot Casino. And that is Misaki's complete canon story so far. Leave a comment below and let me know which of these stories you thought was the coolest. I think my favorite was The Coming Storm, where she takes on her father. That was a pretty epic showdown. Once again, there's a list in the description of the stories where Misaki is featured. Let me know what character from Malifaux you'd like to see me do a deep dive on next. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.